So we look at how the patterns of the earth came together, the rocks. And this influenced how the weather came, how the wind came and shut up the cliff and created the rain, which came back down, and the pattern of this sort of weather system patterned the way, and the rocks patterned the way the rivers formed, and how the water nourished the land and eroded the land to create the sediment as a foundation for different types of life. And this life came, the flora of living being came, of complex living beings. And we like to think of this, the old Alfred Kovisby's work, we call it energy binding creatures, or energy transmuting or transforming. They took all the energy and they transmuted it or bound it for abundance for other complex creatures, and that created more patterns. So this bound energy, consumable energy, patterns the way that that animals came, and their migratory patterns, and this whole living system. This is one whole living being, has a pattern that has developed and evolved through time, and so these animals migrate through it. Animals in themselves, you could call, Alfred did, space binding creatures. So they bound the space from the rivers and the mountains to the forest to the sea, and transferred nutrients and helps that energy flow, like the living rock and wind people to the animal people. And this pattern informed how the first people came, and the first people, like people, human beings, we think of as time binding creatures. Our story and our cultures bind the eons through time. We are the witnesses of the universe. We are the apertures of the universe witnessing and experiencing itself. And so they came, and the nice point about this is, first people generally were pattern weavers of that living being. All of this, including the first people, all a living being, and they patterned and weaved with the living pattern in place. And through that weaving came art, and came beautiful culture, and came functional ways of agriculture, like how to, like fire stick farming, like cold burning forests to nourish the living being and create managed ecosystems for the abundance and biodiversity of life, an evolutionary genius of weaving with nature, and through time, and absorbing with that. And then basically everywhere in the world, the next wave of settled people came, and settled people have a different pattern to indigenous cultures, and they repatterned everywhere. And there is a time in a place's evolution where that place's energy forked to repattern with the influence of somewhere else, and each place is different. And this happened everywhere. Just in Australia, it happened 235 years ago, and so it was just a one snap, one brutal rip in time after 65,000 years of evolution of culture. But this happened iteratively through the eons, through the years and centuries and millennia across time. And the settlers, the repatterners, rather than weave with pattern, sort of pattern weavers, they're pattern enforcers. So they brought in patterns from other places, with positive and negative effects in different ways through different times, depending on what different lenses you want. And modernity evolved one way or another. The good and the bad, however you want to see it, whatever perspective you think of. But the most important thing to remember is this whole thing is still a whole living being. It's not poor nature. We are nature. This is one. The way we transact, the way we relate to each other, the way we govern ourselves, the way we govern water, the whole essence of this place is still one whole living being. And this shows up. The beauty about this is we didn't wipe out the patterns in time. They're still there. That's why New York is different to Newcastle, which is different to Nagasaki. even though we have a global modern system of copy-paste capitalism and urban planning and development and 101 things, the patterns in place still showed up and shaped the unique beauty of each place. And I'm not saying modernity isn't beautiful. There are beautiful ways and there's shit things that have happened, and we can't go back, but we can consciously come together and really evoke the spirit of what these patterns are and harness with them and understand what happened, and repattern our own minds to understand the past to be able to shape the future. And we look to do this through Story of Place in this co-designed character development. We use living systems frameworks to look through all the patterns through time, and we co-create with community. Well, really, we just with community loving this journey, and community really co-create their own identity and understanding and their own character of who this place is. And the reason being for this is, rather than me saying, oh, we need to plant more trees, oh, the river's pretty polluted, there's a lot of inequality in this place, we should fix that. We work off the premise that you can't solve problems without creating more problems. And so through regenerative development, we hold whole living beings, that's what we focus on, and we look at their essence, and we look at how we can help evolve these living beings into their full potential in their own spirit, in their own natural beauty. And that's our way of designing on the right side of history and repatterning ourselves and reforming the way we civilize with each other in place. So we've seen 100 times, like, it's pointless to try and fix a river, the problem of a river, without addressing agriculture and industry and and everything that comes from there. You can't fix the problem of affordable housing without addressing economy and governance and policy. You can't sort of solve a problem without creating another problem, and you're just chasing your tail in this circular economy of problems of this material world. So what we're saying is, another way to look at it is understanding this living being is to grow the metaphorical eucalyptus forest that will nourish this living being till its full potential, and ourselves along on the journey, and understand how to nourish ourselves while developing the living being in place.